Greetings, greetings. So, um, just a short sharing and a question perhaps folks maybe want to ask themselves is what do these cult icons, these cult personalities, these celebrities, what do they have that you don't have? What do they have that you don't possess? Are these cult leaders, do they have access to information um, that you don't have? Are they quote unquote smarter or more intelligent than you? And if you think that they are, what are you basing that on? There is something that we are all attracted to in these cult leaders. For example, in the cult leader Joseph Robinson, aka self proclaimed Earth Solar Messiah, soothsayer, spiritual healer. I was thinking that this is a positive black male father figure that had could have some insight to me in terms of a father figure, guidance, and relationships. Not that I wasn't, well informed on many things, but guidance and relationships, and another ear to listen to, um, a role model for my son. But if we really strip it down to the basics, do these people have access to information that you don't have? Is there any books that are they any books that these cult leaders reading that you can't read? Um, with all the information that is coming down to them from the divine or whatever, do you not have access to the same information or perhaps your own information? So I'm asking these very, very simple questions, perhaps, for folks that want to just take a minute to just consider, do these people have something that you don't have? And you know what it is that they have that you don't have? Nothing. Nothing. They don't have any capabilities that you don't have. Now, they may be savvier at manipulation than you. They may appear to have more mates than you, um, but they don't really have anything that you don't have. If you remove the titles from these people, what are you left with? And this is not exclusive to the cult leaders. Um, it's not exclusive to that's my family coming on. But they don't have anything or possess anything that you don't have, even if you feel that they've read any books that you haven't. You have the same capacity to read a book, to write a book, and it's something in many of us that's seeking validation or acknowledgement. Perhaps folks could consider the amount of stress and anxiety that is triggered in watching these people. And so, if there's something that's triggered, usually there's a reason why folks are so enamored with watching reality shows in other people's lives. Quite often, folks are trying to figure out their own life, and often vicariously through others. If we see a situation that seems like they lived in a similar situation as you, or they grew up and they struggled, or their parents weren't there, or they were violated, or you've been through the same thing, we make an assumption that this person has all of the answers, but they don't have anything or know anything that you don't. Are you able to move to the tropics if you want to? Yes, you are. Are you able to get on a plane and travel? Yes, you'll have to orchestrate and be responsible and do that. If you want to have one mate, several mates, if you would like to orchestrate that and all the things that come with it, you can really create that. Something to consider. Do we have a desire to get into something that is elite? A desire to be part of a membership of an elite club um, where we feel better than other people, or we have a need to feel like we're valuable, when maybe we didn't feel valued before or acknowledged. That could be the case for many of us as brown and chocolate peoples, and so something that makes us feel better or more special. So I just invite folks to consider these folks are not. telling us anything that we don't know, but there is something that many are attracted to. Natural hair grows, our hair grows out naturally. I think it's amazing that this is one of the big draws, but it's not irrelevant, and it's something that people are definitely seeking. For example, acknowledgement. It speaks to some simple stuff, but not to be taken for granted. For example, many Black women and brown women and women of color may not feel validated or feel attractive, because of wearing our natural hair. It's a simple observation or a simple truth, if you will. So when someone acknowledges us for this, um, it gives them an edge for many folks and young people and just people out there that maybe can't have children or worried about having children, or a lot of the population that's been exposed to diseases. They will feel like they have an ear and that they will get some the hope of healing, there, or that they will still be accepted in relationships. And I do think there was someone that did point out some basic observations. We wonder why these cult personalities are so popular is because they have an ear and they listen. Now, the catch is they're listening and they're auditing. They have a motive in being a father figure in the ear. They do have an agenda, as do most cult personalities, poverty pimp preachers, manipulators. They have an agenda and they're listening. But these folks are not dropping any mind blowing knowledge that folks don't have access to or can't research on their own. Especially as many of us want to say we're from kings and queens or we're from God. There's not mind blowing information that they're telling you that you don't already know or possess. Maybe it's perhaps we feel like they have the guts to do something that we haven't ventured on doing, or we want support in going to do something, whether that's living in another country or not uh, fitting into popular culture. But quite often with these cults, we're trying to fit in to something where we didn't feel like we fit in before. So I'm just putting this out there for folks to just explore and not just look at what other folks' attraction is to cults, because these particular cults are attractive, but they exist on so many different levels in society. Most religions were considered cults before they were firmly established. So there is a human need to be social and for validation, and a lot of our basic human desires um, is what is being exploited. That's males and females. And we have a tendency to put, something to think about. Why are we putting more faith into these individuals and cult leaders and ministers and gurus than we're putting in ourselves? We're putting it, part of it is social conditioning. We've been raised to put more faith and more action and zeal and zest behind personalities and figures than ourselves. A lot of this we've been groomed into, um, hmm, and now we can't find her. Wow, she joined a wife school. So yeah, I feel for you. This is very it's very illustrative, and it's something for us to sit, perhaps. Can't tell grown folks to do and to get quiet and to just be real with ourselves. What is missing, or what do we perceive is missing? We can't control grown folks. Nobody can necessarily, at a certain age, go in and rip somebody out of a cult. Again, I continue to encourage people to look at the extensive educational list of cults, black and white, so you can see a lot of these patterns, and you can see what has happened when people have gone to rescue people out of cults. Some are put into deprogramming. There are quite a few that run back, right? And particularly if they've been bonded sexually to the cult leader, or if they've already been deeply programmed. So it's not as easy or as black and white as it seems, but then again, it is. So it's it's very delicate, and there's a lot depending on the age of the person, if they're mentally stable. There's so many different things that are involved in pulling somebody out. She might be in the Dominican Republic. Wow. Yeah. I feel for you. So I could tell you to research. Um, yeah, and there are steps. And even if you were to pull these people out of the cults, what would you have waiting for them when they come out? You know, again, maybe something for us to look at. Young people and young adults reach a certain age where you can't control them and they have their own lives. As with, you may have grown adult friends or female friends or single folks that are interested in a cult. Sometimes just out of curiosity or just in seeking a quote unquote, and it may sound like I'm oversimplifying it, and finding a simple mate, finding a husband. These things sound so elementary, but folks feel very panicked about getting hooked up with somebody. That may sound very simple, but it's speaking to some desire within us to feel validated. And we have a lot of programs and fantasies about what that looks like. A lot of that training comes from society, a lot of it comes from religion. So, another question to perhaps I invite folks to consider is, do you have the ability to motivate and inspire yourself? If you did not go to these churches on Sunday or Friday or Saturdays, do you have the capacity to motivate yourself? And not just in the mind, because this is real estate here. A lot of the cult leaders are telling you a lot of truth, but is mixed in with manipulation. That's a good distinction to make. They're telling you universal truths. It could be the JWs knocking on the door, or any of these churches. There are lots of universal truths, but they are mixed with manipulation. So when you get caught up in a lot of the rhetoric, we get blinded and distracted from what the agenda is of these individuals trying to pull you into something. So we really do have the ability to inspire and motivate ourselves. Some simple things that we can do um, is to plant something and to grow something. And again, it may sound super simple, but we're definitely in an age we get so drawn in and distracted by a lot of rhetoric, a lot of fancy sounding words, and we've been conditioned to really be impressed by it. People more impressed with the savvy lingo than growing a plant. Again, in any this is 2019. There's all kinds of, for example, grow technology to grow stuff in bags and apartments for seniors. Everybody can grow plants and grow food to eat. It's just a matter, do we want to put the time in to learn how? We're in an age we can learn how to do so much. A lot of us are scared to fail. When really failing, again, those are words that are really loaded uh, with lots of programs and trigger a lot of emotions, because how do you learn? Maybe a few plants will die. Not all the plants or the seeds make it, but these are wonderful lessons for life. There's so many wonderful lessons that I would say to a certain degree are kind of pure without people's opinions. Inside of a simple garden, there are a lot of things. Somebody wanted to sew clothes. If you wanted to wear your own hair, but we're so often scared of what other people are going to say, then we kind of get boxed in. And that's a societal program. We're scared of what people are going to say about our homemade clothes, or if we don't go with the group and the status quo. And it can really dull our decision making. So, just one other thing I'm just going to invite people to consider is that these cult leaders and icons, they have their own personal dramas and they have their own traumas that they're dealing with, that more than likely you are not going to be privy to. The cult members that are already inside have an allegiance to their savior or messiah, and they're not going to allow you to see those things. By the time you see those things, many people will be in too deep. But know that they have their own personal traumas. A lot of these personalities are created. Usually, they've been exposed to trauma or perhaps been violated um, directly and sometimes indirectly by society, or a combination of both. So they have their own personal stuff that they're dealing with. These are just human beings with their own dramas, and many of them are traumatized. Um, Some folks that are traumatized, either they'll be a champion to make sure that other young people are not traumatized, or they will inflict a lot of those traumas and behaviors onto another generation of people. So, yeah, somebody did make a comment that I go help this person. And I'll say this as a mother who's very active, pretty active parent in terms of PTAs and so on. I remember going to PTA meetings, running across town trying to get my son in this program and that program. And I remember I used to be quite exhausted because I still had to do homework and fix healthy food and clean my house and go to work and all those things. And I remember one day I was like, I'm not going to the PTA meeting. And so one of the folks at the meeting asked my son, "Where's your mom?" I said, "Tell your mom to come to the PTA meeting." And I remember thinking, "Mommy is tired." So I say that to say one person cannot be the PTA for the whole school and take on the load for everybody. It's understandable other people may not be at the PTA because they're working or there might be other situations, but one person cannot carry the load for everyone. So I invite everyone to think, what can we all do to contribute um, to another environment and to setting some standards of safety um, and just clean, upright dealings with each other. That's the simplest way I can put it. What would we like to see for us, and what would we like to see in our dealings with people? So we have um, healthy boundaries, clear boundaries in dealing with each other, and brown and chocolate peoples too, because we need that. These are human beings that we are dealing with. They're flawed human beings. We don't need perfection, but we do need folks to be upfront in business dealings, and we need to also understand who we're dealing with and what people have the capacity to do as human beings. Anyone can make a video and show you something that you like. Special effects, the average child can make and edit videos on YouTube. Children now can build websites. It's not hard to fool people. It's real, or to paint pictures, of people. So going in and saving somebody, unless it's a child, it has to be something that is reciprocal. There have been many, many hard lessons. And I've taken the risk at putting this out there. Hopefully, not because I have anything for anybody to join. I'm not anybody's savior. I'm just a regular human being. I'm not doing anything that other folks can't do. You can travel, you can grow something, you can grow something in bags, you can exercise. Anything you want to do, you can do it. It's just so you're willing to put the time, you know, um, into it. I'm not out here to say I'm better than somebody that's younger than me, older than me, with another skin color, from another ethnic group. All these things are, I even have to question, we're more supreme and we have more supremacy than other people. These are all just distractions. So regular human beings, they have their own traumas and their own dramas to deal with. And narcissistic personalities and manipulators don't mind dragging you in to support whatever their schemes are. And so, while, for example, I will say, I don't recommend that folks purchase uh, this man's music, and be careful of a lot of the programming. One of the main tools that he used to indoctrinate folks is music. And I do understand that people are so curious that people are going to go over and give them views, which allows them to go on eventually and um, get some kind of money and get credibility. I just invite people to take the time to think, for us not to be so reactionary and think. And it's not easy. Um, it was not easy to have a family member inside of a cult, which I didn't think it was a cult in the beginning. I thought it was a positive community. And I don't beat myself up or bash myself for trusting somebody that was a black male. It's not like I went there totally ignorant. I did research on this man, but the research I did wasn't enough. There was some patterns that I didn't know. It's just like saying if you're 16 or 14, even if you're 18, you're at a certain age where legally you can do things, but there's a lot, if we were very honest, that we don't have a frame of reference for, and that we just don't know. So I'm sharing I'm sharing my experience. I've shared my experience just to give some folks some insight into some of the patterns that if you don't have experience or a frame of reference that you just may not pick up on. So hopefully folks can educate themselves. Yeah, I'm a mother. And if folks again would ask themselves the question, if any person at any time was had their family member and their offspring, their child, which is a young person, not a small child, but any family member inside of a cult, um, would they put on the cult clothes and go there, trying to figure out what to do, and stand on the side of the road with a tethering device to get a signal to alert other people in the states what to do? So I just say that to point out an example so folks don't hopefully don't get so distracted by the right or the wrong of our reaction because folks don't know what they would do under that kind of stress and anxiety. Any mother, I'll be real with you, would be ready to go to battle for her children. Any man would go to protect his mother and protect his children and his family. So we're out there, women on our own, doing the best that we could in the situation. So I'm not here to ask for validation or permission. That's another way, another programming, a way that we are vulnerable and always seeking validation and permission. And so there's wisdom in all of these books, but a lot of it, obviously, at this point, is obvious. It is glaringly obvious that all of the rhetoric is being used to confuse people and to manipulate people. If we remove the books and the rhetoric and the outfits and the bindi and the locks and all the lingo, we just have human beings with agendas. And as long as you're not exploiting other people, and you can live with respect for all the people and the creatures we share the planet with, then we're okay. But not everybody's thinking that way. And at this point, there's enough information for us to wrap our minds around. There are people that look like us, who we care about, who have the capacity to scam, violate, lie in our faces. So something for us to look at is like, do we really as a people want to believe that we are not capable, we don't have folks in our ethnic or cultural group that are capable of doing some similar, just dastardly deceptive things as the system that oppresses. These are human beings. These are human beings, flawed human beings that have their own dramas and their own traumas. I'll just leave you with this. Do know if you should decide out of your curiosity to send these people money, just like folks that are funding these other cult leaders, do understand, and it's that they have 99 acres of land and they have their own family, and most of them, the mates are married in, and so on. And so many people, do you have your land or your insurance or your children and everybody set up, where you're taking your hard earned money from people that really look down on you? Whether that's because you eat meat or you live in the city or whatever, that look down on you. And meanwhile, you're thinking you're supporting someone in something that seems like it's a positive example, when you're really looked down upon. And what's the word? I can't think of the word, but can't think of the word right now. But you're really looked down upon, and you're asked to support. It's so many psychological games that are going on there. So yeah, we have to take care of our own selves and be healthy and set healthy boundaries before we think with these automatic programs, think of sending our resources and our time and our energy, because it's not just money that you're sending over. And these cult leaders are very well aware of it. You had to work hard for whatever it is that you have. So you're not just sending money, it's life force energy that you're sending over to these people, and even the energy of a hope or a dream. You're sending to these people to support their mission. Meanwhile, you can do whatever it is you want. You can move wherever you want to. There's nothing that these people have that you don't have and you don't possess. And this again is one of the ways that young people are manipulated. So it takes a lot of energy to do these things. There are other things for me to do. I have a garden with some iguanas and stuff running around eating my tomatoes and my greens. There's life to be lived. But just as I was moving around doing chores and cleaning, sometimes it comes to me, and it's interesting. The cult leader basically would try to silence you, and any thoughts that you have, that you don't have the right to speak, or you don't have the right to think. These are things that I was told by the 70-year-old man. And they do look for folks that are young, and this sounds horrible. I don't want to say the word dumb, but that are ignorant of certain things because they feel like you're a clean, open slate. And if they have folks that are in an economic position, um, that just want a meal and want some kind of affection, there's so many people. There's so many people. Reality. There are so many people where that is appealing because it seems so much more attractive than their current situation. It's just a lot that they're not banking on. So it's kind of akin to having a train run on you. It's like folks taking their turn. So the system, white supremacy, black, white, preachers, ministers, it's like everyone gets a turn, and we're continually making ourselves available when in actuality, these folks don't have anything that you don't have, any direct line to God, or, you have your own interpretation of natural laws and common sense. If you closed all these books, treating other human beings with respect, respecting the planet. These are things that are already within each of us. This stuff is inherent common sense, but we get confused into a whirlwind of rhetoric when folks start challenging us questions and asking us questions that we may not have quote unquote answers for. You don't need to know everything and every piece of wisdom about gigahertz, megahertz, and how the stars line up in order to know how to treat people with respect. Or in one of the videos, you may not have seen it. Well, no, you didn't see it. The camera had shut off, and one of his queen mother mate had said to me, got on the walkie-talkie and said, sister so and so. She's not calling me sister. And what I said, your name is so and so Robinson, and yes, you're just a woman, and I'm very well aware of how a sister would treat a sister. I'm very well aware. It's a simple thing to know how I should be treated with basic respect. Everyone, whether you're the royal family, as we like to put it, or not the royal family, human beings are worthy of respect. And so a lot of this comes down to more faith in you than you put into other people. We're putting so much faith into celebrities, into ministers, into pastors, into gurus, into all kinds of cults. Like they have answers that you don't. They just read some books. They don't have anything that you don't have. Maybe they're savvier. Some people do seek tutelage under these folks to learn how to get better at scamming. The MOs and the pimp how-to manual, they can read people how to angle. Yeah, some folks have that because maybe they were abused as a young person. And again, I'm privy to a lot of information that folks are not, because I was in there. I wasn't there for a million years, but I was there for long enough. Folks have asked, were there things that we saw? There were things that we saw. There's some things, but they did not all add up. And so they don't have anything that you don't have. There's no blockbuster wisdom they don't have. And if there's wisdom or principles or just information you're not aware of, if you seek it, you can find it out. I just caution folks to make the distinction between the personality and the information. It's telling you things, but a lot of it is twisted. You can't separate the character of the person from the character of the person is the character of the person, and the behaviors. It's not to be ignored because the information is savvy or it's advanced. And these narcissists, they don't change. They get savvier. They compare notes. They watch each other. I couldn't even run off on the list. I don't need to run off the list. Many of you folks, you can look around our community and you can see. Fortunately, inside of me, I can see folks that say, wow, this person is brilliant. Wow, this person, never seen such a critical mind like that in a long time. But I pick up on things that are often the behavior. And so having faith in me and a feeling of what feels off is what allowed me to get up and walk out and risk not being accepted by the group or the sisterhood, or they're not going to like me. Quite often you'll walk alone. You know, and if we can accept that, I really feel confident other things will open up. But we're trying so hard to fit into so many groups, whether they be black, white, money groups, and not having acceptance of ourselves. Of your unique presentation. We don't need other people to tell us this. We don't. We have to start to not that we don't have to do anything. I don't have to tell grown folks what to do, but I invite folks to start validating your own being and your own presence here. We're waiting for permission, and it leaves us wide open. So these cult leaders don't have anything that you don't have, except they may be savvier and craftier at manipulating folks with words and with videos and with pictures. So hopefully this is helpful. When I think about things, I post it. I can't be on here all the time. I don't desire to be on here all the time. It doesn't feel good to have to have been on the receiving end or have had this experience. All the time, I think, well, not all the time, but quite often, I think of why was I vulnerable? And it's not about me beating up on myself, because that would be, it's not a good use of energy, but for me refining my critical thinking skills and thinking, what was there that I didn't feel secure in, that I was already doing, or what did I feel was lacking, that I put this person up on a pedestal over me. They can give me answers that I couldn't come up with on my own. We're intelligent human beings. We can come up with a lot of answers on our own. Be wary of people offering you shortcuts, and be wary sometimes of curiosity when it can be unhealthy, and we risk putting ourselves in harm's way, and we think we're going to be the one to change the cult leader or the narcissist. It's usually not going to happen, because, again, I can say they watch each other, they compare notes, and they just get craftier and savvier. And if you look at it, all kind of with a similar formula. Again, get educated on cults, whether they be black or white, because these are flawed human beings with their own dramas and their own traumas. So hopefully this is helpful.